Welcome to the Speed League podcast. I'm Kelly Hansen. I'm here with the man, the myth, the legend, Ryan Berkman.
Yes,
We're
sir.
live from Southern California. I am in mourning because I lost my first matchup of the year.
Yes, he did. And actually, the person who snatched that first win from Kelly was our last place player who always seems to have the worst luck out of anyone. That was Scrubbin' Triples, or John. He dominated this week. I mean, I guess it was a little bit of, his East guys kick ass. It was a little bit of Jet Lawrence doing what he should have been doing from a week one. But yeah, John absolutely destroyed Kelly. So I was glad that someone finally took him down.
Yeah, and you and me were talking. Looking at his team, John was 0-4 going into this. I was 4-0 undefeated. But John's team on paper is really, really good. He's got both the Lawrence brothers and then both of the Rockstar Husqvarnas in 450s, which, I mean, their luck has been absolutely horrible. But he's finally got Jet back doing what he's supposed to do. And then this being the first East race, his East team is like crazy good. And um, he got 77 points in the East alone with three guys: Max Anstey, Pierce Brown, and Austin Forkner. We will post screenshots of our matchups on our Instagram page, Facebook. Go look us up on social media, Speed League Fantasy, if you want to take a look at our matchup. But yeah, I mean, his East team went 1-2-5, and yeah, he ended up with 160 points. I mean, like blew out our high score of the season in our league.
Yeah, and what he did too, and granted his team on paper looks really good, except Malcolm Stewart and Christian Craig, obviously. Those Husky guys have been struggling. But what he did with those guys is he predicted them well and got two dead-ons for Stewart and Craig. So I mean, that's an extra 10 points right there. So I mean, if you have a guy, say Dean Wilson or Justin Hill, someone like that who's rounding out your 450 class, you just really try to need to nail those predictions, at least try to get that point total somewhere respectable. And it's obviously hard, easier said than done. But yeah, John had a killer week, 160, gnarly, would have killed everyone in the league. And on the opposite side of the spectrum, John scored 77 points in his East, and I scored 8. And it's not for lack of effort.
Oh
I mean, I
man.
have Hayden Deegan. I mean, obviously, okay, podium guy for sure. Ended up getting 16th. He got kind of tied up in that first turn mayhem. I have Jeremy Martin, who should have been okay, cool, a top 8 at least guy, and he freaking slams his face on the face of the whoop, out for the night.
Dude,
Hopefully
back
he's
of the head, dude.
yeah.
Yeah, I hope he's okay. That dude has dealt with a lot of injuries, and as soon as I saw, I mean, him down and like a almost comical amount of the asterisk medical crew around him, it was like, oh god. But I mean, he was waving as they carted him off, which is good. But yeah, bad times.
Yeah, but he's waving. I mean, I think that I'm gonna probably have to have another guy subbed in here, next time they have the East. And I know that it's not for another 3 weeks, right? Kelly's next week is West, and then there's a bye week,
And then
if
an
you
off
will.
week. Yeah,
And then
yeah.
yeah, East is back again. So hopefully he could heal up, but I need all the help I could get. I'm not doing as well this year as I would hope, but there's plenty of time to turn that around.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing he's going to be in a concussion protocol type thing because he was out cold. I mean, that the replay was almost kind of scary to watch. You saw him slam the back of his head on the whoop and then just limp. So, um, yeah, I hope he's good. That's a bummer. He's had a few Supercross seasons where he gets knocked out with an injury really quickly. But yeah, definitely cherry on the top of your real bad East team for this week.
Yeah. So the first race of the night, they kind of threw a little curveball in there, trying to, appeal to a bigger TV audience, having all the fast guys go first. I mean, I didn't mind that. It was a little different, but it's cool to have the top dogs go first. But Plessinger came out and then won the heat. And I was thinking, back to everyone having that big talk of, okay, is he a championship contender? Does he have what it takes? It's not going to be muddy. And he looked really good in the heat, go out, win it. And I was thinking, I'm like, man, is he going to get another podium and still retain that red plate? I mean, it didn't end up, totally working out for him, but I mean, hey, he like won a heat. He's like definitely one of the fastest guys out there this year.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, he could have been in contention for a podium if he hadn't have just had a terrible start. You know, he actually ended up having a really really good main considering where he started and like worked his way back through the field. Him and Webb, I think they both were outside the top 10 on the first lap, and both of them passed some really fast guys in order to get where they ended up. But
Yes,
yeah, I mean,
but
Plessinger still looks really good. He lost the red plate, but he looks good.
yeah. But also too, it's like, we've had a lot of chaos, like we've talked about time and time again, people crashing. This main wasn't a big, crash main per se. There wasn't any of those, big name guys going down. So Plessinger ended up finishing sixth, where, that's kind of where he should be. If there's not any crashes, there's not a downpour of rain. Six is probably where he's like going to be. Where are you going to predict him next week, Kelly?
Well, I've had him at fifth, and I probably will keep him there because if he gets a better start, I think he will maintain that top five. Yeah, one up from what you say of sixth. I think fifth probably for Plessinger, but no, dude looks good. He looks really good. And I mean, obviously, speaking of people that look good, Jet, decides to make his comeback now. I mean, and basically does the same thing that he did at Anaheim, one whole shot and then, boring race way out front. But yeah, he looked fast. He looked like, what Jet was supposed to look like minus the last three races.
Yeah, and like we had a moment there in a heat two when like Anderson was leading and then Jet was coming up behind him, and I said, "Oh my gosh, someone's gonna get taken the fuck out right now." Like I was so excited to
Yeah.
see them, battling a little slam, to keep that kind of tension going for like throughout the season. And it was, kind of anticlimactic. I feel like Anderson did try to cut him off in the whoops a little bit, which is always kind of like a scary place, to try to ride like defensive, taking out that guy's front wheel in the whoops. So if it, would have been a little closer or like, Jet kind of eats it, I mean, that would have really added to the fire, in their little squabble they have going on. But that was super clean. But yeah, in the main, Jet just whole shot, wins it, flag to flag. It was pretty impressive by him. And like plus Sexton was like right on his ass at the start, So I mean, seeing Sexton right on Jet's ass, and I said, okay, if like Sexton is going to show that he is like faster than Jet on a dry track, it's 1-2 Jet Sexton. Okay, Sexton, prove yourself, buddy. I'm like rooting for you. I like want you to, pass him, kind of showing some pressure. And he just couldn't do it. Jet is just straight up faster than Sexton.
Yeah. I mean, definitely last night he was, and he seems like he generally is that fast guy. But it really seems like it's start dependent for him. If he gets the whole shot, he's kind of gone. But he's made a lot of rookie mistakes in the last few races where he's trying to move his way through the pack or something like that. He'll crash. He'll like have some issues there. So it's really really start dependent. And fortunately, he's a good starter, and most of the time, I think he's going to get a good start. But I think if if you're talking about someone who's like getting a poor start and needing to work their way through the field, I would probably take Webb over Jet. If like, hey, this
Mm.
guy is going to be 12th on lap one. Where is he going to end up at the end of the race? I think Webb better than Jet at this point, just because he's got the better racecraft. He's more veteran. He has the speed. Webb might not have the outright 100% speed of Jet, but he's got the consistency for coming through the pack way better. And I mean, he showed that. He's I had him as my podium lock of the week last week. He finished one off in fourth place, but with a really good race and passing some very fast people to get there.
Speaking of someone moving through the pack, but unfortunately going the opposite way of what you want to be going, is Tomac. I mean, he got a like great
Oh my
start, which is
gosh.
semi rare with Tomac. I mean, normally he's like one of those guys that starts around mid pack and then passes his way up to be battling for the lead. But he had a great start and then just slowly started. I mean, it looked like he was like violently ill with the flu and like couldn't do anything. I mean, a couple sections, I even saw him doubling, and just kind of pulling aside for everyone. And I said, what is going on with Tomac? I mean, like, have you heard anything, or like, has he had any excuses of why he was letting everyone on the track pass him?
I was just going to say I haven't seen anything, but yeah, I
Me
don't know
either.
what that excuse would be. It would have to be something really severe. Yeah, I was, yeah, like you said, I had the flu that week and just didn't bring it up to anybody. But I was throwing up right before I went on the track.
Yeah.
But no, it was horrible. It was really really bad. And I mean, Tomac's known for he's either kind of on or off, but he's usually not ever that off. That was sad.
Yeah. And I talk about up and down, up and down. I mean, real quick to like go through this season so far: ninth, second, ninth, second, 10th. So then is he going to freaking win the race next week? Or like, well, I mean, what's going on? It's like, how come every other race is like absolutely abysmal, and then he comes back and then gets a podium like the next time? I mean, it makes no
And
sense
you know what? He
whatsoever.
may.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
may, because I mean, this is kind of like the sad tale of Tomac's career of why he is one of the top all time for race wins, but only has two Supercross championships under his
yeah,
belt. Is the consistency and just being there with the speed every single week. But yeah, it was really really concerning because I mean, nothing really bad happened to him. He just did not have pace.
yeah. It was really strange. So is there like anyone else you want to talk about in the 450s? Because I'm really excited to talk about someone in the 250s.
Well, I mean, really quickly, I want to address what you're talking about with the Jet Anderson debacle, because obviously this has been the big drama in the 450 class, is everything that's going on with him, and it is hilarious that just like magnets they would end up
Mm-hmm.
together in their heat race right after everything that went on last time, but they kept it totally clean. And I mean, Jet obviously, put out his press release about, hey, I made a mistake last time, take what you will from that. And obviously, Jason Anderson didn't really like that. But then Jason went out and did a whole big long podcast, and he was trying to sort of lower the energy level around all of it too. And I think we kind of saw that from both of them in their riding, where they were racing each other, but they kept it totally clean. And neither one of them wants to start a big rivalry or something with another fast guy who's just going to take you off the track, which I mean, that's smart. That's what you should do, because you make an enemy like that, either one of these guys is going to run into each other at the front of the packs in Supercross races.
And really, I mean, Jet should have the foresight to know that Jet is the like championship contender. I mean, Anderson probably most likely isn't going to like win this championship, but Jet very well might. So for Jet to go around making enemies that are trying to take him out, I mean, always we know it like comes down, the last few races, last few positions in Salt Lake, what's going to happen. And I mean, Jet does not want any enemy. He should go around shaking everyone's hand and like complimenting everyone on their lit kit to not, get like taken out just, and lose out on all those points. So, yeah, I mean, hopefully they squashed it last week and they can move forward, and, Jet will be okay.
Totally, totally. Okay, yeah, let's talk 250s. I know you're chomping at the bit to talk about this guy that I mean, unfortunately had ranked too far down in fifth place, because you have such a bad taste in your mouth after, all the injuries that have happened before. And I mean, God knows it's only the first race and injuries could still happen. But Austin Forkner looks undamn believable.
Unbelievable. And I even said, too, it was a couple podcasts ago, I said that it wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world to me if Forkner came out and just won this championship, because he obviously has the speed. But the reason why we had him ranked so low, and like rightfully so, Kelly, do you know the last season? Okay, what year was it that Forkner raced an entire season?
Oh,
What would it
jeez.
be?
We're talking like 2019 or something,
Okay,
maybe.
it was back in the time of the COVID. It was 2020 season. He
Wow.
rode all the races. Okay, and in 2021, two races the entire season. 2022, five. 2023, one half. Okay, so it's like, how can you
Not even
even?
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So how can you even, like predict or project or just think that, okay, this guy's going to be awesome, one of the fastest guys out there and be like consistent, which he like hasn't showed any like consistency, obviously, because like this is just the first race, but just seeing him out there winning the heat and then coming and just winning the main. And like, granted, there was, a large pile up in the first turn, so he didn't have all those top guys breathing down his neck. It's not like, Deegan was like bumping bars with him. But just everything that I saw from Forkner just bodes so well for the rest of the season. And I actually, okay, not to be hyperbolic, but I have Forkner as my favorite to win the East Championship just after seeing him one time. I know there was a lot of stuff going on, a lot of crashes, a lot of balls hanging out on the track. But I have Austin Forkner as my championship favorite after the first race.
I without an injury, I believe you're right. I'd say if he can stay healthy, he's the guy.
For sure.
But
Um, Go ahead.
so yeah, I mean, so Forkner obviously kills it, but it's a little tough to draw a lot of conclusions for the 250 East class outside of that because of the absolute mayhem that happened at the first corner, knocking out. I mean. Half of all of our teams, I think somebody from our league lost somebody in that first corner thing, at
Except
least one
John.
guy. except John. Yeah, John with Forkner and Steve Pierce Brown. But no, I did. I ended up actually okay. But I mean, my top guy is Seth Hamaker. Got knocked out that first corner, ended up 21st. But fortunately, I had a random pickup after just watching the first session of qualifying. And I have Enzo Lopes on my team, and he's out with an injury, hopefully coming back for the next East race. But I was looking for somebody to sub in, and Daxton Bennick looking solid in qualifying. So I actually ended up, he was looking so good, I actually ended up dropping Jalik Swoll and picking up Daxton Bennick. And then I subbed in Guillaume Ferris for Enzo Lopes. But yeah, Dax Bennick with the podium. I mean, riding like an absolute monster in his first rookie race.
Yeah, and I know that obviously Jet Lawrence in his first ever 450 race ever, he won. Like that's a huge accomplishment, first time ever. But like Jet is almost like a different breed. It was expected. People weren't even too surprised by that. But for someone like Daxton Bennick on his first ever 250 race, riding with the big boys, this isn't futures anymore. This is freaking big name dogs, and to get a podium, I mean, that is super impressive. I mean, if he's available in your league, I mean, I would go and
Oh,
press
pick him
pause on
up.
the
Yeah.
podcast right now, go and pick him up and then come back because he is going to be one of those guys that I think is going to be like a league winner where it's someone that you drafted late, weren't really expecting much, maybe even like Kelly picked him up off the waiver. And then he's going to be a guy getting top fives. I was really, really impressed by him.
Yeah. So I'm curious to see, next round comes around, hopefully we have most of the guys can make it through the first corner and we'll see where Dax shakes out. I don't know if I'm ready to say this guy's going to be a podium contender every weekend, but I mean, yeah, for someone who's a rookie coming in really, really good. Another rookie that looked really good is Chance Hymas. Chance
Yep, I was
Hymas
going to bring
was
him up. Yeah.
got the whole shot and then was running up in the top three for like most of the race. And then somehow randomly on like the last lap or two, I don't know what happened, but he ended up, I think, 10th.
Yeah. 10th. And like,
Did we see anything? Was there some on the broadcast did we see what happened to him? Because
No, we didn't.
he kind of was falling off and lost a few positions, but then all of a sudden he was 10th place. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, but like kind of in like a metric that I like to use on like how well like a guy's going to do. I mean, like say that, someone gets a good start in the heat, maybe some like top guys aren't in there, and they get, third or fourth in the heat, but then in the main, they're back there and, 14th or 15th where they should be. But Chance did really well in the heat. I believe he got second in the heat. And then he like comes out in the main and was like right up there with all the big dogs. And yeah, like Kelly said, he like had a little issue and crashed. But I mean, the speed was there. And again, that's a guy that like could be available in your league. And after the first week of, East, it is imperative that you kind of find who's fast and who's not, like picked up in your league, and go and get them on your team as fast as you can, and maybe even sub someone in if you're kind of, torn between two guys. So, I mean, those are the top two guys to look for to get on your team as soon as possible.
Yeah, this is one of the most pivotal parts in fantasy. Is I mean, even when a new coast is starting up for the first time in the season, I mean, even just watching qualifying times, and you'll get an opportunity to grab somebody that might be like a mainstay for the entire season, and that's exactly what happened with Dax Bennick to me. Like, I think it's pretty unlikely I drop him at any point. He looks very strong.
Totally. And then someone who was a favorite, heading into the season, that did, you know, pretty good in the heat, and then obviously had that crash in the main. But just overall, Hayden Deegan didn't look anything special to me. I mean, I know that he's like still recovering from that wrist injury. He was just kind of going full speed these like past couple weeks, but I mean, like if he didn't have the like preseason hype that he had going in, I wouldn't even have thought that he was, that like fast of a guy. I mean, what did you see from him, and like what was your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, and it's weird because there's all the social media hype and everything around Hayden Deegan, and then he had his injury, which was the worst kept secret in Supercross. That he and the team didn't want to put out any kind of press release, even though everybody knew something was going on with his wrist. And then I actually saw in like some of the interviews, when he finally came out and said, "Oh yeah, I had this wrist injury." There was almost like kind of some inconsistency in at least what I heard about, like, he said, he initially said, I was only off the bike for like a week, but then I heard it might've been like 3 weeks or something like that. So there may have been like more of an issue with that wrist than maybe he was hyping it up. And he actually kind of ended up coming into this week, not talking a lot of shit and sort of saying, hey, if I walk out of here with a fourth, I'm not going to be that worried. So yeah, with him coming in a little bit lukewarm, and obviously he gets taken out at the first corner. And I don't know if you saw the picture of like his handlebar bent to like almost a 90-degree angle. And
I
that's
was too
pretty. He
busy.
rode around to a 16th place or something. That's kind of impressive, actually.
I was too busy looking at the pictures of like Cameron McAdoo's balls to like really see any other pictures of like Hayden Deegan's bike or anything like that. So no, I didn't even see that.
Okay, yeah, no, I saw that. It's the new wallpaper on your phone.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, that's good. Where did McAdoo end up? 15th, not good.
No, not
Was
good. And
was he was he in he must have been in the
yeah,
first corner pileup.
yeah, he was. I mean, like obviously a lot of big guys were in that first corner pile up, so you can't really draw too much from this. And like really, if you look down at the top guys that were on the bottom, and then a look up top, obviously, like you said, Daxon Bennick's not going to get podiums every week. Cody Schock's not going to get fourth every week. But it just kind of you like see who's fast and who's not. I mean, for instance, I drafted Nicholas Romano on my team, and I actually dropped him, and then like picked up Cody Schock on my team because like he was still available. So yeah, whoever you drafted, you don't need to build too much chemistry with him. If you think he should be out, drop him out. But with that being said, where do you think Hayden Deegan's gonna get in 3 weeks? 3 more weeks for the wrist to heal. You like saw him out there on the track. If he was on your team, where would you predict that guy?
I'd say podium. I still think, yeah, especially with the time he's going to get to actually heal up his wrist and spend some more time on the bike. I think he should be a podium guy. I'd probably conservatively put him at 3, but knowing, I mean, if things go well, he could finish a 2 or win it.
Yeah, and I'm like curious to see how that's going to go. I'm going against someone like Max Anstey, who like super consistent, one of those veteran riders. That was my lock of the week last week was like Max Anstey. I mean, pretty much everything preseason, everything leading up to this week. I mean, no like injuries to worry about. Looking super consistent, older rider, veteran. That was my lock of the week, and he ended up pulling a second. That's probably where I would have like predicted him if I had him, which I don't. But still, those like people that do. If you would listen to old Uncle Ryan's prediction assistant, then you would have done pretty well on that.
Totally. And yeah, Anstey he basically looked like he did last year. I mean, just strong, consistent, ends up with a second. This time it was to Forkner instead of Jet Lawrence. But yeah, really, really good ride from Max Anstey. I would basically expect to see the same going forward. I mean, second, third, maybe if he gets an opportunity, I think probably at least Forkner. And, maybe we'll see how Deegan shakes out, might have more outright speed than him. But he has good speed and a lot of consistency.
I agree completely. So then, do you want to move on to our locks of the week?
So let's talk about what our predictions are going to be. So yeah, we want to go moving into the next race. Talk about each of us one guy who we think's a lock for a podium, and what we predict them, and also just maybe some guy who's a little bit deeper down. So we're going back to West next week. My guys actually I picked were both 450s, but for my podium lock, I went with Cooper Webb last week. Cooper Webb got his bad start and ended up one off in fourth, like we talked about. But I'm going to stick with Cooper Webb. Actually, he looks really, really good. He just has everything going for him. He's actually qualifying well, which has normally not been a thing for Cooper Webb. He's more of a race time guy, but he's got the speed even in qualifying. His starts are really good. He was out gonna win his heat and then just lost his front tire and Plessinger ended up taking his heat race. But Webb I think looks really strong, and as long as something really bad doesn't happen, he's going to be on the podium next week.
Yeah, and then my lock, I mean, it's nothing, it's gonna like knock your shorts off or anything, but I like what I've been seeing from Chase Sexton. He had that little one mishap in like San Diego where he got an eighth. Obviously crashes will like do that to you, but I feel like at this point of the season, he's like kind of coming to terms with who he is, what he is, in like relationship to the other guys. So like him like seeing himself starting behind Jet and then knowing that like we'll like see if I could push it and then get him. He can't. So like really, I know that it's hard for like a true racer to do this, but I think that he should have the mentality of I am shooting for those second and like third place finishes. I'm there to pick up the scraps if like something happens to Jet, like it almost did at this race in Detroit. I mean, Jet almost biffed it all like by himself. And like Sexton would have been there just to pick up the scraps. So I mean, I think that like Sexton's gonna ride a smart race, not push it, not try to catch Jet, and just kind of hope that he makes those mistakes. But he definitely has the speed to be on the podium every single week. So he's my lock of the week next week going into Glendale.
Yeah, I like the pick. Sexton, I think, definitely would not like the concept of I'm going to be the pick up the scraps guy. He wants to win every single week, but he's being really smart. And I mean, he, like you said, comes out behind Jet in the main and does what he can, but he didn't ride over his head. He didn't throw it away like he did a lot last year. And finished in second and walked away with a red plate going into Glendale. So, I mean, that is a win.
Yeah, and like Kelly, I want this like podcast to be bigger than the like Joe Rogan podcast too. But like sometimes you have to come to terms with like what you are and just try to do the best you can, And in like his case, I mean that is podiums, that is red plates, that is pretty consistent throughout the season. So I mean, no sweat to like Sexton. He's like one of the fastest guys out there, and hopefully if he could stay like consistent, and then Jet makes those mistakes, he'll like be there to maybe battle for the championship.
Okay, so what would you predict Sexton going into next week, knowing that I actually have Sexton on my team, so I'll be listening intently.
I would go straight up to. Um, I think that my like podium next week would be Lawrence, Sexton, Webb. I like think that would make the most sense of like what we've seen prior and kind of just those like guys being consistent. But I could see a world where like Webb wins one, or like maybe Sexton even capitalizes on one of those mistakes like we talked about. But I think it'd be safe to put Sexton, not 1, not 3, but just leave him right at 2.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, Jet at number one, I mean, it's hard to argue, but I mean, it literally, I think, is just going to come down to the start. I want to see him get a start because his starts have either been whole shot gone or way back in the pack. I want to see him get like a fifth place start and, just have to, not deal with just insane chaos way deep in the field, but have to pass a few fast guys in order to get to the front.
Yeah, I'm like, Jed obviously has been training his like whole life for this. And I feel like, his team knows his like weaknesses and like probably over analyzes every aspect of everything, kind of like we do. And if I was him, I would literally practice starts all week, just nothing but starts. Because if he, gets top 3 into turn 1, like you said, he's going to pretty much win it every time, bearing like a gnarly mistake. So I mean, if he just gets those starts, I mean, he's going to be pretty unbeatable here coming up. I could see it happening.
Okay, so going a little deeper in the field, who do you have picked, and what's your sort of your other prediction lock for somebody who's maybe not a podium guy?
Okay, so I want to kind of go over Hunter Lawrence. So like he had decent expectations coming in. I mean, he also like his brother dominated the 250s. And I actually talked to a few people that like thought that it was going to be Jet 1, Hunter 2 for like a lot of the races. That obviously didn't end up happening. He's been like kind of averaging around 10th place. He got 7th in like San Diego, but like there was a lot of crashes in that race. He actually finished above like a lot of fast guys that he wouldn't have finished in front of if not for crazy mistakes and like crazy weather. Then this like past week, he like had a decent finish, but he still finished in front of a lot of big names that I feel like on a normal week he wouldn't. So, and even though he's like averaging around those, 10th, 11th place, I I would predict him lower than that. I think that if I had him on my team, which I don't, and I'm glad, I think like next week he's going to be around that 12th place, which like sounds horrible, but the numbers really point to him, not really performing. And if everyone finishes where they should, he's just not in that upper echelon of people.
Okay. So I also picked Hunter Lawrence as my deeper field guy. So Hunter has been pretty consistent, around that 7th through 11th range ever since the first race. The first race, obviously, he didn't even make the main due to all kinds of crazy chaos. But since then, he's been looking really good. I'm picking Hunter Lawrence, but I'm actually going to put him at an 8. And here's why. I've seen him finish up there a few times, and yeah, like you said, he's finishing in front of some people that generally you wouldn't expect him to finish in front of. But when you're doing predictions, you actually want to factor that in. I usually factor something like that in because if you're just going down the list and going, okay, I think in uh, when everything averages out, Lawrence is going to be first, and then Sexton and Webb and like all that. And you go down this list and then, say, okay, I think Hunter is slower than these 10 or 11 guys. Well, Supercross is chaotic. And in any given race, a couple of those guys are going to have a bad race and crash out or have some issue or something like that is, and you got a Hunter Lawrence that might be the 11th fastest guy, but just because of chaos he's going to end up a few places higher. So I'm actually going 8th with Hunter Lawrence, which is exactly where he finished this last week, and I kind of think that's where his like rubber meets the road position is.
So I get what you're saying, and that does come into play because, like, normally there are going to be crashes or there are going to be some people that are off, But I do just want to go over who like Hunter Lawrence beat this week. Okay, he beat Justin Cooper, which kind of go hand in hand. He beat Eli Tomac. He beat Malcolm Stewart, Justin Barsha. It just seems like, and I know that it's like chaotic, but but those guys should finish ahead of him. And I'm the same with all the people that like finished ahead of him. It's like he's just not one of those fast guys. And I would definitely take the under on 8th. If like you want to go 8th and then I went like 11th, we'll see where he's closer next week. But
Okay, I'll take a cheeseburger bet on this one.
I just feel like 8th is his absolute ceiling. There is
Yeah,
no way that
but I
he's
mean,
finishing any
you're
better
these
than
guys you
8th.
listed. These guys you listed. I mean, Tomac, had huge problems, and yeah, granted, he might be up on the podium next week, like we talked about, but somebody else that's normally on the podium is going to be on the floor. Malcolm Stewart, yeah, I agree. Malcolm
Talk
Stewart
about
should
on the
be
floor.
Yeah, yeah. Malcolm Stewart with another dirt nap this week. Malcolm Stewart should be beating a bunch of the guys in the top 10, but he's not because Supercross is chaotic and he's on the bad end of that luck scale right now. So I think that's going to continue to happen. And I think Hunter Lawrence is reasonably fast. I think he's got top 10 speed.
Last thing about like predictions and like kind of you're like seeing the you know the tip of like each side where like Kelly honestly is like taking his ceiling and then I'm kind of taking his floor because we are like pretty far off on that prediction. So I mean, maybe so would like right in the middle of our two like predictions be the way to go? I don't know, but
I think that's
we
for the
will
viewers to
see.
decide. I know what I would do, but yeah, we'll see what happens. And I mean, look, Supercross is chaotic. Predictions are very hard. This is why it's an important and fun part of this game. I mean, John got 3 dead ons and scored 22 prediction points this week. That 22 points is enough to sway a lot of matchups. This is why making predictions are important. By the way, just looking at our matchup breakdown, um, I would have beat everyone else in the league besides John this week, and I still lost to him by 52 points. It was an absolute blowout. So, I mean, if you're down low in your league, you've lost a bunch of games. This is your first year playing. Don't give up yet. Supercross is chaotic. There's always opportunity, and play the game. Look at the roster, see who's available out there that you can pick up that might be opportunistic, and work on your predictions. I mean, predictions is a little bit of an art form.
Yeah, and I mean that's the same with anything in life. I mean, just because you're like starting out rough, and like it's tough, and nothing's going your way. I mean, then boom, out of nowhere, you get a 160-point week, or break through on something that you've been trying to figure out. So I mean, yeah, just like stay on the waiver wire, stay on predictions, try to you know I know that I like to set my alarm on my phone for the minute before the like new week goes through and then riders are able to be picked up. I always set an alarm so I know that at least probably me and Kelly are like the only two ones doing that. But I mean, I'm always on there trying to get the like guys that I want. Even MotoGP, I will set my alarm to 1:59 a.m. so I could get up and then pick up all the guys that I want. So it is a like commitment, but it's worth it in the end. When you're hoisting that trophy and all your friends are pissed and your bank account's $200 richer from, whatever you guys put in a little, side bet gambling money for the winner. I mean, it's all worth it. So it's a long season, but keep your head down and keep grinding. You only need to get
It's
second
all
to be
worth
in
it.
the
Yeah.
championship. So
It's
shoot
all
for
worth it.
second.
You put in the hours. Your friends and family haven't heard from you in weeks, but you're watching that roster. And you're doing the most important thing, which is winning at Fantasy Supercross.
That's right.
But
That's right.
all right, that's all I had to talk about. We're going back to 250 West next week. I'm stoked to see how our top 3 is like pretty well shaken out in 250 West now with Kitchen, Smith, and Hampshire. I'm really curious to see what happens at this race.
Me too. Time will tell. My money is on Jordan Smith coming up. I just have a good feeling about him.
Okay, we'll see what happens. All right, we will see you guys next week after Glendale. Peace.
See you.